Now, we're going on to the English section. So the first question is, where are you most likely to see these mermaids? Mainland, by the shore, in the lagoon, at the coast, near the rainbow. In this English question, I would make sure that you have a highlighter or something that you can highlight key words. So where are you most likely to see these mermaids? It says here, if you shut your eyes, you're the lucky one, you may see at times a shapeless pool of lovely pale colours suspended in the darkness. Then if you squeeze your eyes tighter, the pool begins to take shape. All the colours become so vivid that another squeeze, they may go on fire. But just before they go on fire, you see the lagoon. This is the nearest you ever get to it on the mainland, just one heavenly moment. If there could be two moments, you might see the surf and hear the mermaids singing. So you see the lagoon. The most likely place you will see the mermaids is in the lagoon. Answer C. Question 2. Are the mermaids friendly to most people? Yes, they play many games with people. They prefer to keep their distance by splashing their tails at people except for Peter. They enjoy spending time with mortals and sing to them. They attack people viciously if they get too close. They allow people to comb their hair and swim with them. Now, where you find the answer? So the answer to this is B. They prefer to keep their distance by splashing their tails at people except for Peter. Where we find this evidence? Right at the end here. They saw her probably splashing her with their tails, not by accident but intentionally. Now that's keyword intentionally, means they want to do it on purpose. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that they are splashing their tails. They want to keep their distance from the people. So they're keeping their distance by splashing their tails. So it has to be B. They prefer to keep their distance by splashing their tails at people except for Peter. Next one. What does the word vivid mean? In line 3 we see it here, vivid. So if it says, it will say the line that it's in, so that you can always go back to that. So and the colours become so vivid that with another squeeze they must go on fire. So they become so vivid. They often tell you in these English extracts to find words, or what do words mean. So it's really important as well. Again, always be reading up, looking up different words that you find when you're reading, because this would be really, really valuable when it comes to 11 plus. Because if you've never come across this word vivid before, and you're not unsure of what it means, colours become so vivid. I mean, you could fit in some of these words to it, normal, unrecognisable, if you didn't understand it. But the word vivid means it becomes so clear. So it has to be E. Number 4. What does on the contrary mean? Line 8. You see it here in the passage, on the contrary. So we read the sentence around it. You must not think from this that the mermaids were on friendly terms with them. On the contrary, it was among Wendy's lasting regrets that all the time she was on the island she never had a civil word from one of them. So on the contrary means, doesn't mean the opposite is the case. It's forbidden, without a doubt, without warning, it is the truth. So again, if you're unsure of the word, try and fit in and see which one would be most appropriate in this sentence. So in this case, she says, you must not think of this that the mermaids are on friendly terms with them. On the contrary means the opposite. You know, that they never actually talked to anyone. They weren't friendly. She never had a word with them. So it means the opposite is the case. The opposite is the case. Or, you know, they never spoke to Wendy. So the answer has to be A. Number 5. The writer uses words like lucky one and heavenly moment. What atmosphere does he create when seeing these mermaids? So someone chooses you to go and see the mermaids, that it's a unique experience and people will be in awe in sighting these mermaids, that anybody can go to Mourner's Rock and see these creatures. Keep your distance from these mermaids as you'll be lucky if they don't catch you. They are not real and are all in your imagination. He creates an atmosphere as if you're saying the lucky one, heavenly moments. So it is a quite nice atmosphere that you're fortunate to be chosen to see these kind of moments, heavenly moments. It's not a scary moment. These kind of words you need to look at when you're looking at the text. So lucky one means you're unique, isn't it? That you're that not everyone gets the chance to see these people. Heavenly moment is a very simplified, it's very dignified, it seems very peaceful kind of moment to experience. Looking at and reading over the passage, it has to be a unique experience. So unique you'd get from being a lucky one. Unique experience, and people would be in awe. This word awe in sight in these moments, it's almost like if you see something heavenly in front of you, you're in awe, you're in disbelief, you don't know, you're kind of in shock as well. So that awe means the same as a heavenly moment. So you're connecting these words together. So it would have to be this, has to be answer B. The next one, how do you think they treat the other boys? If you see here, it says they treated all the boys in the same way, except of course Peter, who chatted with them on Mourner's Rock by the hour. So if you see, except for Peter, he chatted with them the whole time. So what does it mean about the others? So how do you think they treat the other boys? Did they let them borrow their combs? They chat for hours to them by Mourner's Rock. They do not talk to the boys. They allow them to sit on their tails. They sing to them. So from this evidence, you would have to say that if they talk to Peter of the whole time, what do they do to the boys? They treat them all the same. It means that they don't talk to them. So they don't chat for hours to them on Mourner's Rock. It's not B. As mentioned, nothing about them using their combs. It has to be C. They do not talk to the boys. And then except, of course, for Peter, who they chat to all the time. So the answer then has to be C. Number 7 says, what does the word intentionally mean in line 13? So it's the last word here, but intentionally. So always go back to the passage and find out where the word is, and might make more sense. So splashing her with their tails, not by accident, but intentionally. It means the opposite of accident. So not by accident, but intentionally means she wanted to do it. They wanted to do it. So what does the word mean? To want to do something by accident, to be forced to do something, to be asked to do something for someone else, to pay someone to do something. So as we've seen, it's the opposite of accident. So it has to be to want to do something. So the answer is A. So not by accident, but they wanted to do it. A. Question 8, it says, which one of these is not mentioned as something mermaids do? So do they mention that they comb their hair, playing games, singing, dancing around Mourner's Rock, or lie in the warmth and light? What is key word now that they not do? What don't they do? They have mentioned in the text that they comb their hair. Yep. They have mentioned that they have a lovely singing voice, that they sing. Yes. They've mentioned that they play games with each other. And they do mention that they lie in the warmth, that they bask in the sun. So as a process of elimination, you can go back over the passage to make sure that they've done all these things, but the answer is what they don't do is dancing around Mourner's Rock. So the answer is D. It's not what they do. Okay, number 9, it says, how come Wendy has never seen the mermaids at the turning of the moon? Now, if we see here, we need to find the evidence in the text. We go and look at the text, and we see she has strict rules about everyone being in bed by 7. So she's never seen the mermaids. So it says here until the evening, but the lagoon is dangerous for mortals then, and until the evening of which we have now to tell, Wendy had never seen the lagoon by moonlight. Less from fear, so not from fear, but because she has strict rules of everyone being in bed by 7. That is the evidence there. It's just about reading back over it, trying to highlight what they've said, and then marking it in. So the answer is E, because she wants everyone to be in bed by 7. Now, number 10. What does it mean by hitting them gaily? Line 23. So that's all about when they were playing with the balls, I think it was. So what does hitting them gaily mean? Hitting them forcefully, gently, cheerfully, abruptly, or powerfully. Now it's all about, again, the vocabulary and knowing what it means. So gaily is another word for happily or cheerfully. So the answer has to be C. Again, some of these, you could have read and reread the text. Some of them are just some questions just look for the words and the meaning of words. And if you're not exposed to that kind of language, you won't know them. 11. The children often spent long summers on this lagoon. Which word in this sentence is an adverb? So, an adverb is an adjective and a verb. So I always think of it describes a verb. You put the the start of here, add, and the verb at the end. So it's like an adjective verb. Describes a verb. It normally is words ending with ly. So like she walked slowly. It's describing how you create the verb. So they walked slowly, ran quickly. So adverbs of frequency. Now, some people, when you're teaching it in school, you normally say an adverb ends in ly. Now there are some, and it's adverbs of frequency, how you do things or how often you do things, is also adverbs. So like normally. Now some of these do end in ly as well, but there are exceptions to the rule. Rarely, occasionally, all these, but there's also one, often, or sometimes, are adverbs of frequency. It's how often you do something. In this case, the adverb here is C, often. That can be a tricky question. They often do put in a tricky question like this because you would have thought to know that adverbs end in ly. They always end in ly, but there are some exceptions to the rule, and often is an exception to the rule. And it's quite a difficult question, and it's quite a cheeky question to put in, but they do put in these answers for you to see how well your knowledge is of adverbs and have you gone through it and do you know what they're asking you to do. Tough question, but the answer is often because it is known as an adverb as well. The answer is C. 12. Why are the mermaids splashing her with their tails? To invite her into the lagoon, to keep her away from them, to show her where they live, to protect the lagoon, to ask her for food. So after reading the text, you see that they're splashing their tails not by accident, but intentionally. It's that line there. They're intentionally splashing her. It's not to invite her in because they don't talk to her. There's not that communication. They don't seem that friendly towards her. It is to keep her away from them. They're splashing her to say, kind of warning her not to come near them. So the answer has to be B. 13. It says, why does Wendy like to visit the mermaids on sunny days after rain? If we look here, we look up at the text, we read through it. Why does she like to come after the rain? So we see here, it says, however, on sunny days after rain, when the mermaids come up in extraordinary numbers to play with their bubbles, the bubbles of many colours made in rainbow water, they treat as balls, hitting them gaily from one to another with their tails and trying to keep them in the rainbow till they burst. What do? They come up to the surface to play with their bubbles. So let's see this an option. Because the lagoon is quiet and nobody would disturb them. That's not true, because lots of mermaids come close to the surface to play with the bubbles. That sounds familiar. Because the sun shines their beautiful colours around the lagoon. Because they come very close to the shore because they're hungry and she feeds them. Now she doesn't mention them feed them, she says she sees them. So it has to be B. They play with bubbles. 14. It says, quite irritated her. What does irritated mean? So again, you need to know what this word is. Irritated. Does it mean annoy, pleases, makes you feel sad, special? It doesn't bother her. So irritated is something that you find really, really annoying. So with that, it has to be A. Irritated. If something irritates you, and you might have known this already, something irritates you, really annoys you. Answer has to be A. 15. Shapeless pools of lovely pale colour suspended in the darkness. What is the word suspended? Is it a noun, adjective, adverb, verb, or pronoun? So suspended. The colours are suspended in the darkness. So it is a doing word. It's the colours, they're suspended. It's an action verb. So it has to be a verb. It has to be D. A noun is a person, place, and thing. Adjective describes. Adverb describes a verb. And a pronoun replaces a he or a she instead of saying their name. So it can't be that either. So it is a verb, it's a doing word. 16. Lagoon is dangerous for mortals, it says in line 18. Who are they describing the lagoon as dangerous for? So that key word there is mortals. And what are mortals? Mortals, of course, are humans. Mortals is another word for humans. So it has to be answer E. 17. Sometimes a dozen of these games will be going on. How many is a dozen? 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Again, this kind of links in with maths. You might have done a dozen. Or in baking, often is used a dozen. A dozen is, and this is actually a question that, you could have read the text over and over again, but it's just your general knowledge. You need to kind of know what a dozen was. It doesn't tell you in the text. You won't find the answer in the text. It's kind of your general knowledge. Do you know what a dozen is? And a dozen means 12. So the answer is B. Half a dozen would be half a 12, which is 6 if you said half a dozen. But a dozen means 12. 18, it says the keepers are only allowed to use their hands. Which of these words is a noun? So again, what is a noun? A noun is a person, place, or thing. So which one of these is a person, place, or thing? So the keepers are only allowed to use their hands. What is the noun there? The noun are the keepers. They are the person that they're on about. This is just a revision. The adjective, so we've said noun is a person, place, thing. An adjective is describing words. Verb is a doing word or an action word. So in here, allowed would be the verb. The answer has to be B. The people, the person. The keepers are only allowed to use their hands. It has to be B. 19. Wendy regrets she didn't have a civil word with the mermaids. What does civil mean in this context? What does civil mean? If you have to have a civil word with someone. Again, it will not tell you in the text. It's kind of some of this general knowledge that you would need to know prior to reading this extract. Civil word doesn't mean an angry word. Doesn't mean harsh. It's not a negative kind of word. It's not a quick. And it's not a private. If you're civil with someone, you're just polite to them. You kind of speak to them. There's no aggression. There's no loudness. It is just almost like another word. It's a polite word. So the answer has to be C. Number 20 says, what does the writer suggest is quite a pretty sight? The last line. So it says, sometimes a dozen of these games will be going on in the lagoon at a time, and is quite a pretty sight. Does it mean the view from Mourner's Rock, the mermaids combing their hair, the mermaids playing games in between the rainbows, Peter chatting to the mermaids at Mourner's Rock, or the mermaids flapping their tails? If you look beforehand, look up to find the sentence, and it'll tell you in the sentence, sometimes a dozen of these games will be going on in the lagoon. Games. Which one of these mentions games? The mermaids playing games in between the rainbows. That is what a pretty sight is. Try and find the key words. I was trying to find games. Found games. It's up here. So the answer has to be C. Always look for key words. Go back into the text. Look back over it and try and find the key words in the sentences. It sometimes will tell you, say it said here, the last line. So you don't have to look through the whole text again. You look at the last line and find the key words and try to explain it. And that's what I would do, and especially in the exam pressure, finding this word games was key. Found it there, makes it a lot quicker to answer the questions.